Okay, in this presentation we're going to look at the concept of genre and how it relates to the first year writing program at Eastern Michigan University. To start off, we're going to look at a definition. This is the definition that's provided in the Green Reader, Reading and Writing the College Experience for 120 classes. Genre. A genre is a specific form of writing or other media that arises from certain ways of thinking and being, supports particular activities and interactions between and among individuals and groups of people, occurs in relations to other genres, and over time can influence the environment in which it appears. Now that's a mouthful, right? So we want to kind of break this down and simplify it a little bit. So what is a genre? Okay, the most simplest explanation is it's any style or category of art. So this includes, but is not limited to, fine art, writing, music, film. So it has to be something that is a creative form, and it's a category or style within that. That doesn't mean that anything that can be categorized is automatically a genre. For example, types of flowers. Flowers can be categorized, but a flower would not be a genre. Whereas rock music would be something that is created by people for artistic purposes. Therefore, rock would be a genre within music. For our purposes, we're going to focus primarily on genres of writing. If you think about the things you write in a day, you'll probably find that you already write in many different genres. So think about the things that you write any given day, even today. And you'll probably see that some of the things on this list here you already write in. For example, text messages or emails, class notes, letters, poetry, any of these things, basically any type of writing. If you were to say to someone, hey, can you hand me that fill in the blank, whatever you would say, so if you said hand me that email, email is the genre. It's the thing you already tend to call it. Okay, so is that it? Is that all genre is? Yes and no. That's the most simplistic way of looking at it as far as it being a category. But for our purposes, for studying it, we need to understand that it's a little more complex than that, which includes how it functions in the bigger picture. So we're going to go back to that earlier definition and break it down. And you'll see there's the 4 parts, that genre is a specific form of writing or other media that arises from certain ways of thinking and being. Number 2, that it supports particular activities and interactions between and among individuals and groups of people. 3, that it occurs in relation to other genres. And 4, over time can influence the environment in which it appears. So we're going to start by looking at an example. So for this one, we're going to use a memo. So a memo, for those of you that may not be familiar with this genre, is a workplace genre. It's something that shows up in a lot of businesses. You'll see here that this is a memo being written from probably a manager to different department heads that's saying that there's going to be a modification in the company policy that every year one employee from each department will be awarded special bonus leave, so extra vacation time for outstanding performance. So that's the purpose of this. So let's look back at those definitions here. So number 1, a specific form of writing or other media that arises from certain ways of thinking and being. Okay, so with the memo example, the thinking and being, it's coming from a manager, so thinking like a manager. That is the environment in which it's being created. So it's created in an environment that thinks in a business sense, that are people that work at this company. Number 2, supports particular activities and interaction between and among individuals and groups of people. So here, the activity is communication within the departments. A memo's purpose, its activity, is communication and usually getting fairly important information across from one person or group to another person or group inside of a corporation or business. So you notice here that already works for number 2. It's between and among individuals and groups of people. There are very few genres that work by themselves. I would say probably the only one that pops into my brain is maybe a diary entry where it's just yourself. Most genres are going to work with groups of people. It's going to be passed around. It's going to be read by many different people. The genre occurs in relation to other genres. So one of the things that the memo said was that they were going to look at performance reports in order to determine who's getting this extra time off, this extra vacation time. So that right there is a specific genre that this memo occurs in relation to. But you'd find in any workplace environment, the memo exists within a world of genres. There are tons of different genres that you'll find in any office or business place. So it doesn't exist in a vacuum. It doesn't exist by itself. And finally, over time, it can influence the environment in which it appears. So for the memo, you have a couple of things going on for influence. One is that it says we will be having this meeting at the very bottom of it. So automatically, by receiving this memo, any of the department heads now know, oh, okay, I have a meeting I have to go to. This was something that wasn't known before, and it is automatically changing their behavior. The other things are, it is going to eventually give somebody time off. So it may influence over time how hard people are working. I'd imagine that was the point of the memo, or the point of the program to give people extra time off is incentive to work harder. So it may be changing how hard people are working. And finally, it is also determining that somebody will be getting additional time off. So at some point in the future, there will be somebody who's not there on any given day because they got time off. So you'll see that the genre may be a category, but within it, when we really study it, we're also seeing that it has to occur in relation to its environment, which includes who's reading it, its purpose, the influence that it has. Okay, another topic, another word that you might hear a lot when we're talking about genre is the word conventions. Okay, so what are they? Conventions can be thought of as the rules of a genre. They determine if a genre is written correctly. We also use conventions to determine what genre a piece of writing belongs to. So, for example, if you were watching a movie that had the following qualities: scary music, lots of blood and gore, a masked bad guy, lots of death, what kind of what kind of movie would you be watching? I'd imagine most of you thought horror right away, and probably romantic comedy did not pop into your mind. So think about it. How did you know? You know that it's horror because these are typical conventions of a horror movie. In order for it to be a horror movie, you have to have certain things. And writing can be looked at the same way. So conventions determine how you write a genre. For going back to the horror movie example, if you're making a movie, the conventions determine how you go about making the movie. They determine maybe that you hire an actress that can scream really, really well. It determines that you hire people that are skilled in special effects at blood and gore, and maybe not somebody who's just really good at creating Victorian costumes. So when we think about it in writing terms, it would determine how you write a genre. Some genres you're very familiar with, so you don't need to think about the conventions. So if you think back to that list of genres you probably already write in, let's take text messages, for example. You're probably not sitting there every time you go to text someone thinking, oh, okay, what are the conventions? What are the rules of this genre? You already know them. You know them without even thinking about them. It's something you do all the time. But what if today somebody asked you to write a memo, or an ethnography, or an annotated bibliography, or something that you have never heard of and you've never written? How would you figure out how to write that genre? So that's really where conventions come in. So let's take a look back at that memo. So if we break it down, if we really look at the conventions here, and this is not all of them, but this is just a few to get you started, you'll see things like the word memo appears at the top. There's a header with company information and a logo. There's information about the sender, receiver, the date, and the subject similar to an email. If you start analyzing the language, you'll find that it's straight and to the point. It has professional language. The paragraphs aren't indented. It's single-spaced with an extra space between paragraphs. This is the basic format to a memo. So if you needed to write a memo your first day at a new job and you've never done it before, if you found a memo and you analyzed it and you took it apart and figured out what the conventions were, the idea is that you could replicate them.